School textbooks tell you that the world is material, that thought is a byproduct of chemistry in your brain, that the universe is a dead machine in which you are an accidental spark. But in 1908, a small book in a black cover was published in Chicago. It was signed strangely, Three Initiates, and it stated the exact opposite, that the universe is not a machine, but thought, that matter is the slowest form of spirit, that reality has 7 precise laws, and whoever knows them ceases to be a victim of fate. This book is called the Kybalion, and it claims that its principles are older than Egypt, older than the pyramids, older than writing, that they have passed through a chain of initiates for 5,000 years from Hermes Trismegistus to the present day, and that today we are surrounded by science, psychology, and philosophy, which are 90% a rediscovery of what is already stated in this book. Over the next 20 minutes you will learn all 7 principles and understand why they were attempted to be erased from history 3 times and why they are returning again. First, who are the 3 initiates who signed the book? No one knows their names, no one knows in which country they were born. They deliberately hid behind this pseudonym because in the Hermetic tradition a name has no meaning. Only what is transmitted matters, and what is transmitted in the Kybalion is the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, Greek, Egyptian, and Atlantean, so he was called, in antiquity, thrice great because he was king, priest, and scientist in one person. The Greeks identified him with Hermes, the Egyptians with the god of wisdom Thoth, and the Romans with Mercury. From his name arose the word hermetic, meaning sealed, inaccessible to the uninitiated because the teachings of Hermes were oral. Whoever received them took an oath to pass them on, but only to those who were ready. This oath was not broken for thousands of years, and only in Alexandria, in the 2nd-3rd century AD, did the first written fragments appear. They were called the Hermetic Corpus, and they began their journey through the Dark Ages. In 391 AD, the Christian patriarch Theophilus ordered the burning of the last branch of the Library of Alexandria. Tens of thousands of scrolls burned. The teachings of Hermes disappeared from public knowledge for 2,000 years. But in 1463, an event occurred that changed Europe. Cosimo de' Medici came into possession of a Greek manuscript, the Poimandres, the main Hermetic text. He interrupted his translation of Plato, whom he considered the most important philosopher, and ordered Marsilio Ficino to translate Hermes. First, this launched the Renaissance. Leonardo, Michelangelo, Giordano Bruno, Paracelsus, all of them studied Hermes, and here begins the dark part. In 1660, Bruno was burned at the stake in Rome for Hermeticism. In 1633, Galileo was forced to recant. By the end of the 17th century, Hermeticism was declared charlatanry. The teachings once again went underground and only returned in 1908. In this small book, signed by the 3 initiates, they did what had been forbidden for thousands of years. They wrote down the 7 principles in plain text. And the first principle, with which everything begins, is the most uncomfortable knowledge of all, because it changes everything. The first principle, mentalism. The universe is thought, all is mind. This statement is not philosophical, it is technological. The Kybalion states that the matter you see is not the first thing that exists. The first is consciousness. Matter is condensed consciousness, slowed down to a state where it can be touched. 100 years after the Kybalion was published, physicist Max Planck in his Nobel lecture in 1944 would say verbatim, "I consider consciousness primary. Matter is derived from consciousness." 40 years after Planck, quantum physics discovered that the observer influences the outcome of an experiment. This is the principle of mentalism. In the language of science, the Kybalion said it first. The second principle, correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. This is not a poetic phrase, it is an instruction. By studying a cell, you understand the structure of a galaxy. By studying one day of your life, you understand the structure of your destiny. By studying your breath, you understand the tides of the ocean. The same law operates on all levels, because reality is one. When modern physicists speak of the fractal structure of the universe, they are rediscovering this principle. The third principle, vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. In 1908, this was heresy. In 1925, Erwin Schrödinger showed that an electron is a wave. Today, every schoolchild knows. A solid table is 99.999% empty space. and the atoms within it vibrate at trillions of oscillations per second. The Kybalion asserts more. It says the difference between a stone, a thought, and a spirit is only in the speed of vibration. A stone vibrates slowly so you can pick it up. A thought vibrates faster, so it is invisible. A spirit vibrates so rapidly that it appears still. Whoever knows how to change their vibration changes their state. The fourth principle, polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Heat and cold are not two different phenomena. They are the same thing at different degrees. Love and hate are not two different emotions. They are the same thing at different ends of a scale. Light and darkness are two ends of the same wave. From this follows a knowledge that is both terrible and beautiful. From hate, one can transition to love, not by changing but by shifting along the scale, from fear to courage, from powerlessness to strength. This works because both extremes are the same in nature. The fifth principle, rhythm. Everything flows. Everything has its ebbs and flows. This is the law on which 99% of people break. They believe if today is good, it should always be good. If today is bad, it is forever. The Kybalion says nothing moves in a straight line. Everything moves like a pendulum. After every rise, there is a fall. After every fall, there is a rise. Whoever knows this never panics at the bottom and never loses their head at the peak. They know how not to be carried by the pendulum. The sixth principle, cause and effect. Every cause produces an effect. Every effect traces back to a cause. There are no coincidences. There are only unrecognized causes. What you call bad luck is a cause you have not seen. What you call luck is a cause you created, unnoticed. The Kybalion offers a profound practical consequence. Most people live as a consequence of the causes created by others. They react, they drift, they suffer. They repeat the scenarios of their parents and culture, and only those who become the cause escape this current. The seventh principle, gender. Gender manifests in everything. This is not about men and women. It is about two forces present in every atom, in every plant, in every thought. The active and the receptive, the radiating and the gathering, the creating and the nurturing. No single thing in the universe is created by just one of them, only from their union. Therefore, an idea born solely in the mind but not nurtured dies. And an idea that is merely conceived but not truly embraced will never come into being. These are the 7 principles of the Kybalion. And now, the most uncomfortable part. 6 facts that the Kybalion predicted decades and centuries before science caught up. First, in 1908, the Kybalion states, matter is vibration. In 1925, Schrödinger describes the wave function of the electron. Second, in 1908, the Kybalion says, the observer is inseparable from the observed because all is mind. In 1927, Heisenberg publishes the uncertainty principle. Third, in 1908, the Kybalion describes the principle of correspondence, the fractal nature of reality. In 1975, Benoit Mandelbrot coins the term fractal and shows that the universe is self-similar at all scales. Fourth, in 1908, the Kybalion states, consciousness is primary, matter is derivative. In 1944, Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, repeats this in his Nobel lecture, word for word. Fifth, in 1908, the Kybalion describes the principle of rhythm, cycles as the foundation of everything. In 1929, Nikolai Kondratiev publishes his theory of long economic waves. In 1948, Carl Jung describes the circadian rhythms of the psyche. Sixth, in 1908, the Kybalion asserts, emotions are a scale of vibration, and one can consciously shift along this scale. In the 1990s, neurophysiologist Candace Pert publishes work on emotion molecules and confirms, emotions have a precise biochemical frequency. 6 coincidences out of 6. Each time, the Kybalion speaks first. Science catches up decades later. This is not prophecy. It means that the individuals who wrote this book under the name The Three Initiates already possess this knowledge. Where did they get it from? And most importantly, what does the Kybalion say that science has not yet caught up to? If 6 out of 7 principles have already been confirmed, what about the 7th, the principle of gender, the active and receptive in all things? Modern science has not yet arrived at this. But physicist David Bohm in the 1980s wrote about the implicate order, an unseen dimension of reality that unfolds into the visible. He did not use the word gender, but he described precisely this dynamic. Perhaps in 20 years science will catch up here, or perhaps sooner. But if all 7 principles are real, one very uncomfortable conclusion follows. Most people live by violating them every day. They do not know that thought is a real force. They do not know that vibration is the cause of state. They do not know that every emotion has an opposite pole on the same scale. They do not know that every event has a traceable cause, and they live as a consequence of others' causes, blind passengers on another's pendulum. Kybalion speaks plainly. He who understands these 7 principles and applies them becomes the master of his fate, not its victim. This is not magic, it is simply understanding the laws that always work, whether you know them or not. If you do not know the law of gravity, you will still fall. If you do not know the law of rhythm, your pendulum will still swing. If you do not know the principle of cause, your life will still be formed by causes, just not your own. A book that described this 100 years ago, 55 pages. It can be read in one evening, and yet it is silenced, bypassed, and replaced by thousands of life hacks that are actually cut off pieces of it. If this recording has reached you, it is not an accident. It is the 6th principle in action. And then one question arises: what else besides Kybalion has been consciously removed from common knowledge? The answer awaits in the next dawn.